I have changed the internet service to the fiber through Frontier, and this is the Gigabit plan. I was told by the technician that was here that the theoretical maximum of the modem is 914 megabits per second. So to be achieving the maximum, within 1% more or less, is quite impressive. It's around 11:30 at night right now, and we're getting plenty of speed here. It's a very fast connection. We'll do it again. It's pretty consistent too. I've checked it at varying times during the day, and there's never been a time where it drops below 800. Even at the peak times of usage, between like 5 and 9 o'clock at night, it's always up there. There's some inconsistencies in this particular test. I have noticed that no matter what internet service you run this test on, you always get a couple outlier tests every now and again where it's just off, like that one that was 500. I don't think that was accurate. I think that's just something weird about the way this test is, but generally speaking, it works quite quickly, and uploading videos is fantastic now, because it used to take days to upload a long video. And I do tend to record a lot of long videos, and now videos upload within a matter of minutes. I uploaded a 2 gigabyte video this evening, and it went in under 30 seconds. It was just incredible. The whole connection is kind of incredible, because I'm old enough to remember DSL. I mean, it was getting old by then, but it was still around. I think my grandparents had it until even the late 2000s. But you had a typical connection was 3 down and 1 up, and that was it. That was all you had. And at the time, that was still kind of fast, because that was coming off of 56K dial-up. And of course, back then it was usable, because the websites and the programming and everything was much better than it is now. And so the stuff was small. I mean, websites were largely text-based at the time still. So it wasn't difficult to transmit a whole page through 3 megabits per second really quickly. But then cable came out, broadband internet connections became popular. I remember, when I first started to really get into computers, the speeds were in the 30s, and that was a really good connection. I remember, I think it was in the early 2010s, we had a Charter Spectrum at the old location, or Charter. It was Charter, now it's Spectrum, I guess. Well, whatever it is, they had come out with a plan in I think it was the very early 2000s. Early 2010s. And that plan, they called it the Ultra 60. And that would give you 60 megabits per second down through cable, which at the time was groundbreaking. I mean, that wasn't a thing yet. That was an incredible service. I don't think we ever had it. The next thing I remember getting was years and years later. I think we got 200, and that again was really fast at the time. But the problem with all these services was always the upload was super slow. I think on that Ultra 60 plan, the upload was 5. Or something. It's something really abysmal, and I don't understand why it's still like that, because with the Comcast plan I had before this, it was supposed to be 600 down, and it was only supposed to be 20 up. And so I don't understand, like, and they had much higher tiers. I think they had like a 1200 megabits plan and stuff like that. So the bandwidth is there. Why don't you just split it evenly? Like, if the Comcast had a 300 plan, I probably would have kept it because it would have worked fine. The problem was the abysmal upload speeds. You know, I would get up to 800 down on low activity times. High activity hours like 6, 7, 8 o'clock, it would go down to 30s, 50s. You know, it would really, really slow down. But for what I do on the internet, 30 is totally fine. You can stream a video at 30. You can browse websites painlessly at 30. No problem with that at all. I would even rather have a DSL connection at 30 because at least you know it's always going to be 30. But the problem with that Comcast service was that the upload was an atrocity. It was... I actually don't even remember ever seeing the upload go up to the 20, even during the off-peak hours where the download would be 700-800. The upload would still only be like 15 or 17. I never saw it really go up to 20. But during the peak hours, oh man, it was awful. The upload was like 2 or 1. There was several days where I actually had missed the video because I couldn't get anything up in time. Unfortunately, I still haven't gotten back to the point where I'm several weeks ahead of the videos like I like to be. But so a lot of these are actually coming out the day they're recorded or within that week. A lot of times I record and I don't have time to edit it, so it sits on the computer. But I was missing the videos because I couldn't get it to upload. You know, it would be uploading for hours and hours and hours for a 15 or a 10-minute video, and it was abysmal. So I switched to this. This was the service I wanted initially when I moved in, but it wasn't available quite yet. They were still stringing up the fiber lines on the road, and because there's not really much of any cell phone service here, I thought it was important to get the phone service put in immediately. I just didn't think it was a good idea to be living here without phone service, because I mean, you know, if there's an emergency, you got to be able to call somebody. So I went with the Comcast because that's what was available at the time. But I never really liked it from day one, and I didn't really like the Comcast company either. There are some things that went on that were really kind of perturbing to me, but we'll get into that in another video. We'll talk about the prices, the equipment, because there's some interesting items to be taught. There's some interesting items about this Frontier service as far as the equipment goes, including some things about the brand Nokia. But we'll get into that another time. So I just wanted to show this connection because it's really impressive to me to have lived through the time where internet was, you know, 3.1, and now it's a gigabit. Like, I remember thinking, wow, you know, gigabit internet back in the day, like that. It was a concept, but it wasn't real yet, and so it's kind of neat to see it actually start to exist now and be available to the average end user, residential customer, at a pretty reasonable price.